Hey folks, it's Vince the Evil DM. Welcome to another video. It's going to be a little bit different because I've had some questions recently pop up in my email, a bunch of them in the last month or so, and instead of just answering them one-off, I figured I would answer them in a video and bring back sage advice to my channel. So if people have questions, they want to email me, and I feel it should be on a broader level, like a video such as this, I can answer them that way and everybody can do them. So I gathered up about 6 different questions that I figured would be helpful. Don't forget Unscripted Evil, Friday nights at 7:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Phase Rip Podcast is back on this channel as well. You'll see that every 2 weeks with myself, Jeff, and Steven from my gaming group. He is sitting in as the third host. We're having a new show coming out this weekend. We should be recording it, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Nothing goes wrong. Ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address to have questions sent in, and I can read them here on the show. I'd like to do this at least once every month or so. It'd be great to gather questions. I don't get that many, but sometimes I get like a spurt of a bunch of them, and I want to kind of get them all answered. So this should do that. Anyway, first one is, why do most OSR D&D campaigns for D&D die out around 5th level? I think that really depends on the DM and the players. The DM for the most part, because I know myself when I run campaigns, when it gets to around mid-level campaigns is when I start to kind of want to move on to a different campaign, take a different break, or a different game altogether. Sometimes playing the same game for a really long stretch, you kind of get burnt out on it. And from a DM perspective, you want to try to do different things. You don't want to be just shoehorned into one game. I know I like to run a plethora of games that just because my mind is here and there with all different ideas, and I want to get all these ideas out into fun campaigns before they just kind of leave my head. So my group has gone on a wild ride of different games over the past couple of years, 5 or 6 years now, because I like to play different games. So probably most games do fall apart due to the DM and or the players losing interest in the game. And there's nothing really you could do about that. The best thing I could say is take a break, play another game, until people start doing that. Oh man, I would like to really get back to that D&D campaign where my guy was... Once you get into that, then you know you're ready to go back into the D&D OSR game that you had abandoned. So taking a break is not a bad thing, so don't worry about it. Next question. I was thinking about adding a Cavalier to my list of allowed classes when I started up my next AD&D campaign, along with the core classes. Okay. I have a player very interested in playing it and asked, but I am concerned since it seems a bit powerful. What are your thoughts on it? The Cavalier, as written in the Unearthed Arcana, is overpowered compared to the core classes. So if you're adding in this Cavalier, make sure you know that you may want to look at the corrected information that came out of Dragon Magazine. They printed it in the later Wizards of the Coast reprints of those books, so check that out first. Second, if there are any evil characters in your group, that's not going to work, so I don't know if you're restricting that as well. Cavaliers don't have to be played stupid, but a lot of people play Cavaliers stupid based on those list of demands that they have to do for being lawful good. Sometimes they become lawful stupid, but Cavaliers will rush into battle and may get your group killed. So maybe kind of adjust how the Cavalier works, talk with the player, give some allowances in how it works, and maybe you should have a fun campaign. I maybe would ignore the negative levels and things like that. But be warned, they're using the Unearthed Arcana, yet those classes are a little OP compared to the core classes. You can even it out maybe by giving some of the core classes some magical items to start, very low ones, potions, +1 this or that. Just something to give them a little bit more of an edge, because the Cavalier, with his hit points and ability on a horse especially, with the lance, can wreck a lot of stuff for you. Just be careful. All right, topic of awarding experience. I found that my group tends to go straight for combat, and I can only really award them experience based on that, as they barely do any role-playing or interaction with NPCs. That's unfortunate. So leveling up is a very slow pace. How can I get them to roleplay more and get them to do more interesting things for XP? Well, you can't force a group to roleplay. I can tell you that. You could try, but it's not going to work. The only thing I would suggest for getting them to do more things other than combat would to be on the spot rewarding XP for things that they do. So if they decide to go investigate something in your campaign as opposed to going straight to killing, award them experience right on the spot. Be like, yeah, that was a great idea. Here's 25 experience points. That was a great idea. You guys went and investigated. You all participated. Everybody gets 100 experience points. Do the reward, basically the whole reward right off the bat system, and they will actually enjoy it, and they'll know that doing more than just running into combat, they'll get rewarded, and then slowly you can just be like, yeah, I'll give the experience at the end, and then they'll see that they can just get more experience and level up faster by doing other things more than combat. Hopefully that'll help you out. Okay, I'm interested in running an all-evil alignment D&D campaign. Is there any published modules or sources for me to look at to get ideas? I am open to anything from old school to new school D&D sources. Well, running an all-evil campaign is not easy. I know I ran one for about a year and a half, close to 2 years for Marvel Phase Rip, and it's really tough to get a group and get them wrangled in to do things. So they have to have a common goal. They should be loyal to one another by knowing one another, something like that, something that they won't backstab one another, though villains will backstab even though they know each other, but being loyal to one another is a good way to start things. Also knowing that since it's an evil campaign, this isn't your chance to be a dick or a dick to the GM the entire time. This means you're evil, you can be respectful and still just bring around being a dick. No, that doesn't work. So as far as sources to look at, the only thing that really came to mind were 2 Pathfinder module paths, whatever they call them. Second Darkness came out around 2008. It's an adventure path you can use for ideas. It's not meant really for evil characters, but there are some decisions in the module that can turn the whole thing around for the heroes saving the world to villains helping the evil dark elves of the campaign. So it is a module you can look at. It's very well built. I enjoyed reading through that one. And there's also Hell's Vengeance that came out in 2015 for Pathfinder Paizo. They actually marketed it as an evil campaign for evil characters up against basically they're putting them up against a small band of knights, aka would be the heroes, and if you play it the other way around, trying to overthrow the current ruler of the nation. So you're trying to stop these rebels from destroying the evil kingdom, but in your eyes, it's the good kingdom. So those are some things you can look at for inspiration. You can actually use them directly with any D&D game. It doesn't have to be Pathfinder. It's just going to matter of converting a bunch of things and awarding experience based on what you can do in your system as opposed to the Pathfinder system. I've used plenty of Pathfinder system modules as inspiration for many adventures in AD&D, D&D 3.0, D&D 2.0, AD&D 2.0, excuse me, and even basic D&D. It's just a matter of converting things, and it's not that difficult. You just have to take some time, and some people I know don't want to, but put in the work, you get everything done. Next question. I have never run a superhero game. I'm thinking about running one. Which do you think I should start with? I will say I have run plenty of fantasy and sci-fi games before, so I am not inexperienced, but I am still new to running games. Probably the easiest superhero game to run without much experience in superhero games is Marvel Phase Rip, Basic Revised Edition, which you can get free at classicmarvelforever.com. It's the blue book. It is probably one of the easiest games to run, build characters for, and have fun and get into the superhero game. If you want a little more crunchy, I would say Mayfair's Batman, the role-playing game, if you want a street level, or their 3rd edition DC Heroes is a little more crunchy. Ascendant recently just came out, RPG, which is a hat tip to both games, and is a very crunchy system, and is also really well done, really well put together. Not sure about it being newbie friendly, but it might be if you're into crunchy games and you understand mechanics. I think you really like it. It's a very mechanic heavy game, but it is fun. So, but overall, Marvel Phase Rip Basic Revised Edition would probably be your best bet to run your first superhero campaign, and it'd be a good way to get your players into the superhero mood. And everybody will, I mean, will run. Everybody likes Marvel games. It's fun. You don't have to run a Marvel game. You can run your own universe, your own world. You don't have to use any of the Marvel. You can even run DC in Marvel Phase Rip. It's just a matter of going to one of the sites and finding DC stats, which is all over the place. There's tons of websites for it. I think Ben Riley's site. If you just Google that, you'll find it. He has everything from DC to Image, all in there. Perfect stuff. Next question, or actually the final question for the evening. Do you find it difficult to get your group or any players to try new games? I see you run Palladium Fantasy game. I can't get my group to touch any other games other than D&D. Any advice? So, it's kind of difficult to get people to play other games, especially when they're just D&D players, because a lot of them are just like, nah, I don't play anything but D&D. I do find it easier to run other games when people are missing from the group and people still want to play. If you approach it as a one-shot type game, like say you have 1 week where half the group is missing because of prior engagements or people are sick or whatever, but people like show up and they still want to play. Have the system you want to try to convince them to play. Have characters pre-made, hand them out, and say, unfortunately, due to people not being here this week, we're just going to do a one shot just so we can be entertained. Please try this out. Most gamers, I would say most 99% of gamers would be like, yeah, cool, no problem. It's a one shot. Let's try this game. That's how I kind of got some people in my group to do it. When we first started playing, I was playing at a comic book store, and it was in a D&D 5e game. And I kind of slowly convinced them that AD&D 1e was better by doing little hints here and there, talking about it, giving them the book, showing them the book. From there, I got them to play AD&D 1e, and then after that, I kind of formed my own group out of those people who were interested in AD&D 1e and started doing things like Marvel Phase Rip as a one-shot, Ghostbusters RPG as a one-shot, things like that, and slowly morphing them into campaigns. And then finally the group was really, at that point was interested in playing any game, because as long as it's just us together as a group having fun, they didn't care. So those are just some ways that you could possibly get other players into games when they say they just want to play D&D. Sneak it in as a one-shot is the best bet. Throw little hints here and there that you want to try something different. I don't know. I mean, if your group's not into wanting to try something new, you can't really force them, but you can at least ask. You can at least try with one-shots, things like that. Hope that answered all the questions that I had so far. Again, you can send in your questions and I'll try to answer them. AskTheDM at theevildm.com is my email address. Unscripted Evil is tomorrow night. Yeah, it's tomorrow night. Friday night, 7:55 Eastern Standard Time. It's our wonderful show. Myself, the Jeff, and Bloodworth, DM Bloodworth of Unscripted and Unchained. Go over to his channel, hit subscribe. Will be a great show. We'll be talking about some mechanics from D&D, and as well as with the latest OSR news and what's going on and stuff like that. So with that said, I'm going to head out. Keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody. Hope you have a great week.